A warm welcome to this special talk on Nature Conservation Day organized by CEC. Before I begin, I like to express my gratitude to this Consortium for Education Communication UGC, which has organized this and has brought me here for this lecture. It's a matter of special privilege for me being a professor of botany at Sri Aurobindo College, Delhi University. Talking about plants and nature is a special privilege to me, and it is otherwise is a very important day for all of us. Before I begin, I like to tell you that in today's talk we'll be talking about what Nature Conservation Day is, why this day was started, and why do we celebrate this day, and what are we expected to do on this day, and what is the motive and gradual evolution of this day. I am quite a regular speaker here on bioinformatics, and as like I usually start my talks or lecture, I would like to start this on a funny note with a small cartoon where a physics teacher is teaching laws of conservation. Laws of conservation states that the matter can not be created or destroyed, meaning it can only be transferred or transformed. Me, an intellectual who understood this law and transformed all earth resources from its natural form to the other forms. So it has been made a mockery. So the question is, this law of conservation, is it a joke? All earth has been brought upside down. So I'm just beginning this with this funny note that is this law of conservation a joke? God gifted earth and it brought us lots of gifts for human being, including lots of mineral, plants, water, soil, wildlife. But what man did with this is that he ruthlessly used, irrationally exploited these resources, and probably he tried to run away with those. He couldn't do this, and this has led to a huge habitat destruction, and which has brought the situation which is fatal for his own existence. So habitat destruction, I said it has caused a habitat destruction. In habitat we usually consider earth having all resources, physical, biotic, abiotic, in a way which makes it suitable place for survival of species, meaning living species exist here, they enjoy and they flourish. But what has happened in habitat destruction is the earth now is destroyed to the extent that the existence of species would gradually become difficult here, and this species includes humans also. So with this habitat destruction, I still consider with the type of things which has happened, but I am taking them on a funny note. It's like lots of animals and plants, both from aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems, have gone, they are lost, and man got over it. There was no problem with this. There has been heavy pollution around. We are facing an ecological crisis in terms of what we have: high level of pollution in air, water and soil, because of which many of these species have changed their shape, they cannot survive. Apart from this, there has been no proper waste recycling, because of which the things have become difficult. The species are changing their form and they are disappearing also. So a lighter note again for this ecological crisis, that the species are changing shape, that someone is asking a frog, are you a toad? No, he says, I am just affected by chemical pollution, which again is caused by human beings. Same on a lighter note, Amazon rainforests, who used to be species rich, they harbored huge diversity of species. Now people on a lighter note call them Amazon off, meaning it has all the trees destroyed, species gone, and it seems like this at several places. Now I cite some plants which used to exist but now they are gone, like Coxunia. It was existing on earth 425 million years ago, but now they are no more. But meaning not only Coxunia, the plants are disappearing from earth, and I tell you, this disappearance of plants is a natural process, but the process was quite slower, and the species used to evolve, they used to come and go, but now their speed has increased a lot, meaning now according to the latest data we have at least 900 species which have gone extinct in last 5 centuries. I said extinct, they are gone. Another species, Paleoandrovanda, and this is a carnivorous plant, and this plant again is a form of taxon whose identity was not clear, and we don't get it now because it is thought to be an extinct angiosperm, and it was a carnivorous genus. I said carnivorous. It is quite important in ecological cycles, food chains, because they used to consume some insects. So once a plant disappears, that leads to disturbance of all ecological cycle, and food chains are disrupted and all nutrient cycling, and they disturb everything in the system. It is not that only one plant disappears, it has huge impacts on the ecosystem. Another plant which was only occurring in one country, that is Yemen, but it is disappeared. Now we see plants as remains on rocks, and remains, we get them in rocks, and it is quite sad state of affairs. I told you already, it's not very simple to accept that plants are disappearing because they are important part of food chain and nutrient cycling. Then coming to not only plants, we have animals disappearing at the equal speed. Like we have the terrestrial animals is fine, meaning they are also disappearing. But let's talk about the aquatic animals in the oceans. Coral reefs used to be said to be the rainforest of the ocean, meaning they harbor huge species diversity. More than 2000 species of corals have been described already, and of these 200 now are listed as threatened. And why these coral reefs are getting threatened or endangered? Because of the climate changes, rise in temperatures. The coral reefs tried, they could adjust to this rise in temperature, but they couldn't. It is going to, this temperature rise, climate change is leading to bleaching in coral reefs and leading to occurrence of several pathogenic diseases, which is causing a mass loss of biodiversity in the aquatic, in the ocean ecosystems. And it was not only the natural process that the climate change has occurred over years and species are getting disappeared, they are getting threatened, endangered. It is also the greed of human being. I give you a few examples now where because of the greed these species are disappearing. Like I tell you, this beluga sturgeon. What is this? It is a super sized fish which weighs up to 1.5 tons. It has a huge size and a huge flesh too. Lots of delicacies, a good high quality food is prepared from these fishes. And because of this value of this, overfishing and devastating effects of the river infrastructure which is provided to them, the occurrence of these fishes now is limited to just 2 rivers all across the world. Another example where the overexploitation by human beings for their food especially has led to the disappearance of these species. This is red colobus. What is this monkey? This is a prime example for large bodied primates being hunted to extinction. And why do we hunt them? We hunt them because they make a very good family meals. So, and they have become extinct now because they were hunted and eaten at a large scale and are now almost gone. So that was about the species getting disappeared, and I also told you that the species getting distinct has getting extinct, disturbs the complete ecological cycles. And I like to now share some data about this, that at least 900 species have gone extinct in last 5 centuries. We have more than 35,000 species have been evaluated to be threatened with extinction today. 1/4 of the world's mammals, 1 in 6 bird species, and 40% of amphibians are threatened. So species are disappearing and many more are getting threatened. This latest data 2021, it shows the rate of extinction is faster than what we would expect. I already told you there is a background rate of extinction which naturally happens in the process of evolution, but this rate is much faster now, as can be seen from the graphs in the bars, that the amphibians, mammals, birds, we can see that they are disappearing at much larger rate, which is beyond the acceptable rate in any case. So till now, I was trying to give a negative picture. I didn't try, but it had happened, is that there was a negative picture of human beings, and and it's a fact that humans have overexploited the natural resources which God had gifted him, and he didn't bother about the future generation for quite a while. But let's start with the good note of this, because we're talking about Nature Conservation Day. So what I'm saying, the good news about this is that despite this ruthless exploitation, despite this huge number of species becoming extinct, despite the ecological crisis which we are facing, the human beings, with their conservation efforts, they realized their mistakes and they made efforts. They could conserve, they could save tens of animals, meaning mammals and birds species, from extinction. So in this Conservation Day, with this background, let's start about the good things which are being done after men woke up and realized that he cannot make this conservation a mockery. The law of conservations he would have to follow and he would have to stick by them. So again, a data which I thought I must show you, the forest deforestation also is a big cause of species extinction and ecological imbalance, and these forests are disappearing, still they are disappearing. But the good news here is that at least in the region where we are in the Asia Pacific, their rate of disappearing, meaning they are not on the negative side, they are increasing, but the overall world figure, they are decreasing. So why this corona picture has come in between? With this one, I am just trying to tell you that this pandemic, this severe situation which has threatened the existence of human being, has come as a result of this ecological crisis, this unbalanced utilization of resources, this not thinking of conservation of nature in earlier, and a time like this has come where the human existence is threatened. This COVID-19 epidemic, this has damaged, it is a major health crisis. It not only damaged the health, it destroyed all economic, it destroyed the economy of countries and caused disruptions in dense networks of production, investment, travel and trade. All this has happened because of the ecological crisis which we are facing, and this has much more deeper implications, and was just a warning which was coming that man need to change his ways, and otherwise his own survival of the humanity is endangered. So I am just quickly, some of the reasons, some of the things which happened in past which has led to these conservation days being formulated and designed, is some of the reasons were the natural because man had to make his ways, but some are his irrational and greedy nature which has brought this. Like one reason for this anthropogenic habitat loss was agriculture. Man needed land to grow crops for them, so he converted lots of forest and prairies to cropland. He also required land for housing developments, roads, office parks, malls, parking lots, industrial sites, and even during current economic crisis, the land is being converted to the forest land, and the other lands are being converted to the city lands. We had lots of water development projects going on, like dams or water conversions, which disconnected and changed the hydrology and water chemistry. And with all these going on, the pollution had severely affected, has popped in. We see huge air pollution nowadays, and the pollutants are very high, and in water, especially in the fresh water, they are threatening the wildlife occurring there. And the untreated sewage, mining waste, acid rain, fertilizers, pesticides, they concentrate in lakes and wetlands. That leads to disappearance of the life in the fresh water. And another major cause of habitat destruction is climate change. Like the species disappearance, climate change also is a natural phenomenon apart from being man induced. But the speed and the changes because of man-made incidents, man's happening is very high, and because of which this has changed the climate, and especially the rise in temperature which has occurred, which is leading to huge changes in the nature. And because of these changes, there is large scale shifts in the weather pattern. So climate change is a major driver for habitat loss. Because of climate change, the wildlife that usually grows and prospers at the cool temperatures will not be able to survive, because at higher elevation they are going to they will not be no more existing because of the rise in temperature. The coastal wildlife will also find their habitat underwater as sea levels are going to rise. The largest driver of warming is the emission of gases. It is mainly this emission of gases which has created a greenhouse effect, and more than 90% are carbon dioxide and methane gases which have been emitted and has led to this global warming. The fossil fuel burning is the major cause of these emissions, and apart from this, agriculture, deforestation and manufacturing process in the industria is also leading to emission of these gases, which is leading to climate change. And the impacts we can see on our mother nature is that we have wildfires, droughts, hurricanes, and this rising global temperature caused by the greenhouse effect. Melting of ice promotes the rising sea levels, floods, and on a funny note again, the ice cream cone is going to melt much earlier than it is expected. So maybe we also lose the fun of having this ice cream cone if the temperature kept on rising with climate change. So this climate change is going to change the whole scenario, and the mother nature needs to be conserved. There is another aspect associated with this nature conservation. There is a spiritual and human well-being associated with this nature. People worship nature, and especially in our country we worship the lots of natural things which God has made. We worship rivers, we worship mountains, we worship trees, we worship lots of animals. So there is another point which is associated with this conservation day, which our government is to worship nature. That's another point which is gradually we'll be talking about the on the Nature Conservation Day, why this day was needed. Until now we were talking about the of course it has happened because of unbalanced usage of the natural resources which God had gifted man, and now they have brought challenge because God has their own ways of setting reminders to human beings. So the challenges faced by human beings now, they are a sort of reminder to human beings. But the good news here is that we still can manage with these reminders if proper conservation efforts are taken. We'll be able to still manage and try to live better, or in fact if not the same, not some, we would be able to leave better resources for our generations to come. So these human impacts and these human impacts on habitat loss and on climate change were quite serious in nature, and that made World Health Organization WHO to call climate change the greatest threat to the global health in 21st century. And even if the efforts to minimize future warming are successful, some effects will continue to be there for centuries, including rising sea levels, rising oceans temperatures, and ocean acidification. Men like these conservation days would have to find ways through revolutions and organizations how to deal with them, but these reminders of God cannot be ignored, not in any case. So in this section, I of course was on a lighter note, was trying to tell that what human beings have done to the nature, and there has been huge habitat loss, and there has been climate change which is making the human existence to a threat. It destroyed lots of species, and ultimately it is going to come to itself that he will not be able to survive if this is not checked. But the good news here is there is still time to save most species and conserve nature. If human beings, they understand what they have done and how to repair this damage, I think we still have time and we can conserve the mother nature. So we are approaching the end of this section, where I like to close this section with a very good statement by a great philosopher, Leo Tolstoy. He said, the first condition of happiness is that link between man and nature shall not be broken. He said, meaning again on a spiritual note, it's a very important point. For happiness, for survival of human beings, we must not break this bond between nature and man. And we'll talk about the positive aspects, how we are conserving nature now, what are the efforts being made, and how human beings are acting on a positive note. But we end this segment here, this part of the lecture, with the note that we must conserve nature. Thank you.